What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast, where me and my good friend Danny, Dr. Zayas God, Torkel, discuss horror movies and streaming shows. There is a movie in theaters out right now that you should have seen at this point, Sinners. A movie that I think, Danny, you said it's going to be hard for any other movie to top it this year, right?
There are times where you walk out of a movie theater and you just know that you've seen the best movie of a year,
Right.
even though it's April or February or whenever, and you just know that that's going to be the movie for you to beat
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Last year, it was The Substance. From the minute I walked out of The Substance, I knew it's going to take a miracle of movie making for something to hit me the way that movie hit me. And nothing did. It was my runaway favorite of the year. Um, and that's exactly how I felt walking out of Sinners about 10 days ago when I saw it. I loved every minute of this movie. It's one of those movies where the way I described it, and we're going to be talking spoilers throughout this, but I don't think it's a
Yeah.
spoiler. People were mentioning that it was a spoiler or like that the movie spoils itself in the trailer because they reveal the horror aspect of it. And I thought, it's not really, it's kind of just the plot of the movie is,
Right. Right.
yeah. So I looked at this movie as the first half of this movie is a perfect movie about the South in the 1930s during the time of segregation. It was a perfect movie for that. And
Right.
then in the second half of the movie, it became a perfect horror movie.
Mm.
And somehow the like abrupt switch of genres in the middle does not at all take anything away from what's happened before or what will happen after. And I think what makes this movie so great and why I loved it so much is that Ryan Coogler, the writer director, takes so much time to establish just how fucking awesome every one of these characters is,
Right.
so that when you get to this like, burning down fucking ending, like crazy ass ending of a horror movie,
Yeah.
you are like at the edge of your seat rooting for these people who you've just spent 90 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes like getting to know, like knowing their motivations. It's one of those movies where if it wasn't as well written as it was, it would still be really good, but because it's so well written, it just elevates it to this higher level.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing but praise for this movie.
So, same, I feel the exact same way. And I know that people, like, their knee jerk reaction is to say this movie is a lot like From Dusk Till Dawn. And they have evidence to prove that, right? It's very, very similar to Dusk Till Dawn, From Dusk Till Dawn. But in so many ways, it's like far, far superior to From Dusk Till Dawn. And I keep mentioning that movie because you talk about the tonal shift or the genre shift in the middle of the movie. And I think what's interesting about Sinners is I think it actually takes like way longer for it to become a vampire movie than From Dusk Till Dawn does. And there really isn't any kind of like hinting at horror. Okay, so you have this cold open where they clearly show that something horrible happened the night before, right? They're like, okay, this kid was attacked by like a monster and he is like utterly destroyed right now. So something horrible happened last night. But then once they go to the day before, it's there's nothing like a horror movie until the vampire shows up, and I think we're past the halfway point at that point. You
Yeah.
know,
I was shocked watching it. At it went so long with the A story that I almost
right,
just wanted to watch that movie.
right, exactly,
What- And,
exactly.
and and that's why I love this movie. If this movie was a 2-hour movie
Mm,
about twin twin black Southerners who have come back from the North,
Right.
in the 1930s, and they're gonna set up a juke joint with all their buddies, and it's going to be where they're like attacked by the Klan,
Mhm.
which is what really was supposed to happen.
Mhm.
Then, and it's really like a more historical drama, or a historical violent drama
Mhm.
about black culture in the 1930s. I'm there for that. I'm a fucking US history teacher.
Yeah.
Like, I was absolutely loving the first half of this movie so much.
Right. Well,
And
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but like you said, you mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn. You will find few people on earth who love that movie as much as I
Oh,
do.
I love it too.
So when, yes, there are obvious connections. Coogler has said it's one of his like inspirations for it,
Yeah.
but it never feels like, oh, they're ripping off From Dusk Till Dawn. From
Right.
Dusk Till Dawn is played very much for the Tarantino dialogue of it.
Yeah.
And the people who are the good guys in From Dusk Till Dawn are bad guys. The Gecko brothers are pretty shitty people,
Yeah.
who are, by default the heroes as we get into the second part. And yes, they have Harvey Keitel's family and everything.
Right.
But like this movie, the twins, Smoke and Stack, they are bad guys,
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
but they also have a lot of good to them,
Yep.
and you understand the world that they live in. Again, this is the type of movie where, being a history teacher, and I'm not throwing around my like the fact that I know this stuff, but I feel like a lesser filmmaker
Yeah.
would have made points to explain everything.
Yeah.
But for me, seeing 1932 Mississippi, I already understand. Okay, they're sharecropping. They went up north to get involved in the Prohibition,
Right.
gangster era, bootlegging trade. That's how they made their money.
Right.
And like, they name drop Al Capone, but there's
Mhm.
no 6-minute flashback scene of Chicago. They just leave that to us to
Right.
kind of put the pieces together.
Right.
And I love that so much, because I feel like, you always, from the minute we started this channel, you've been like the king of hating exposition.
Right.
And this movie really does not do any of that. They give you these pieces of background story and they go, okay, audience, I trust you. I think you can figure it out.
Right. Right.
And lesser filmmakers would have this movie be 2 hours and 35 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they would explain so much more of it. Or conversely, they would have the movie be 2 hours straight and they would cut out so much more of the opening half and
Right.
focus a little bit more on the violent, second half
Right.
horror movie aspect.
Right. Right. I agree with you 1000% about that. I've talked to Mike Bongiorno about this. I actually wanted to get him in on this morning, but he wasn't available. And he asked me a real interesting question. Like, he was saying, like, why do you think they had to be twins, the two brothers, right? Like, he wanted to know the filmmaking reason behind that. And I could go into the answer for that in a little bit too. But I started to think about the making of this movie. Now, what your point that you just made, where you said, like, there's different ways this story could have been told, or we could have just literally just cut out the vampire part and that would have been an interesting movie. So that part I really wanted to talk about, because what if it was just Smoke and Stack? They have the whole joint night, but instead of vampires showing up, it's the Klan showing up at that same time of night. And then it's just a literal like action kind of survival movie. I think that movie would do well because it would have Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler as the director, right? He's established Creed, Black Panther. But I think the reason why this movie is a tremendous hit right now is because of the vampire aspect. Like, people just love vampires. Like one thing, and then I want you to jump in on this, Danny, in a second. But have you noticed, like, on our channel alone, the main stuff that you and I get like the most joy talking about. Think about this. It's like Midnight Mass, right? Interview with the Vampire. This, right? And I think there's even more vampire stuff, but like
We
some of our
watched when we were getting ready for Nosferatu, we watched Shadow of the Vampire, the original Nosferatu, the Werner Herzog one. So yeah, there's listen, vampires are one of the most timeless horror movie. Like a lot of people credit Stoker with like creating modern horror. Like it was
yeah,
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's where horror started.
right.
And you know, the different interpretations of the vampires. We'll talk more about the vampires. I fucking loved the vampires in this
Same
movie.
here. Same here.
I thought they were so unique.
Yeah.
I love, and listen, you can't talk. We've been talking 10 minutes, 50 seconds. You can't go more. You can't talk. This movie works in every aspect,
Correct.
but I think above all, the thing that stuck with me in this movie was the music. And I think the music is actually what summons the horror, because the opening, you mentioned that opening cold open, there's like
Yeah.
a crawl
Yeah.
about these forces that like music can like open up portals to like, you know, the evil, and they can summon spirits.
Right.
And it's the music. It's, you know, Miles Caton, the actor, it's his song in the juke joint that like summons these vampires to the club.
Yeah.
And the other thing you mentioned, the other movie that this kind of reminded me of, and I think you actually like this movie a lot more than I do, is 30 Days of Night.
Oh shit! Yeah, of course.
This definitely reminded me of that too.
Mhm.
But you mentioned Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. You mentioned their background. You know,
Yeah.
obviously Creed, Black Panther, Fruitvale Station was the first movie they did together. Phenomenal movie. I used to show that movie in my night school classes when I did like a police and the law class.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie. It is to a point now where I genuinely believe, and you, some people might accuse me of hyperbole for saying this.
All right.
I think we need to start talking about Coogler and Michael B. Jordan the same way we talk about Scorsese and De Niro, Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson, you know, or Quentin Tarantino and Christoph Waltz, where it's like these director actor relationships where when you see them connected,
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm going to see this movie. And, you know, to your point, this movie's making a shit ton of money. I wrote it down, and I don't know how accurate these numbers are anymore. I don't know how often IMDb updates their, you know, how much money the movies are making.
Yeah.
But as of this morning, when I checked, it said it had made $207 million worldwide,
Holy
100
shit!
156 million domestically. I think those are probably low because it's they're bringing it back next week
Yeah.
to IMAX, because a lot of the I don't know why this was a controversy. It's like movies come out, they have their run, next
Yeah.
movie comes out, they get their run.
Right.
But you know, I think it's all part of the collective MCU hate. But
Mhm.
like Thunderbolts came out, and
Right.
Thunderbolts took the IMAX screens from Sinners.
Oh.
And a lot of people, myself included, I didn't get to see this in IMAX because the Regal Theater by my house is actually under constant construction. They're putting in new seats in all the theaters.
Yeah.
They're putting in like really nice reclining seats. I'll give them props for it. If you've been to the Regal in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, it's gotten a lot nicer because they put in all these nice reclining seats with tables. But as they're doing that, they keep shutting down specific theaters. So the RPX theater and the IMAX theater had been shut down. And so I had to see Sinners in like a regular movie theater, and it was
Sure.
fine. And I mean,
Sure.
the experience was great. But next week, it's going to be back in the Lincoln Square IMAX for, I think, a week. which if you live in New York City, that's the biggest IMAX screen in the city. That, you know, that's where Brian and I saw RRR.
Oh my God! Wow.
So I'm going
Yeah.
to try to get a ticket to that next week if it doesn't sell out. I have a feeling this movie is going to be one of the biggest hits of the year from a financial standpoint. And I
Right.
think I think that Coogler is at a point now where, and we could talk about this a little bit later, where
Sure.
he's really starting to do things in the industry that are almost unheard of. He
Mhm.
he like made a deal where he gets in 25 years he gets like the cut of the film.
Mhm.
And it's just like he kind of just comes out of nowhere. He, you know, Fruitvale Station was this little indie movie about a very specific tragic thing that happened out in Northern California.
Yeah.
And then from there, he does Creed, which blows up, and you know, people love Rocky, and it becomes this big thing. Stallone gets nominated for an Oscar. And then he does Black Panther, and he just transcends into this now upper echelon of filmmakers where,
Right.
like, even the MCU haters are like, shit, that was a good fucking movie.
Right.
And it actually got nominated for Best Picture. And now here we are, and it's like, it's, you know, May 4th as we're talking. May the 4th be with you, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that he is on the verge of getting an Oscar nomination for this.
Yes. Yes. I'm really glad he brought the Oscars because I have thought about that. I was like, oh, this is gonna get a lot of nominations. Michael B. Jordan's gonna get it. Brian Coogler's gonna get it. This movie's gonna get it. Danny, we are 16 minutes into this review, and we have still not talked about this fucking incredible scene that brought tears to my eyes in this movie. Like this scene, I'm not even going to describe it because you're going to tell me exactly what the scene is. But in the reviews that I've seen, when I talk to other people, everyone always brings up this one moment. They're like, that moment. Go ahead, tell me.
I mean, it's the song at the juke joint that, yeah, it's Miles Caton. First of all, this kid is 20 years old, I think.
Yeah.
This was his first movie. He has the voice of like a 1920s 50-year-old jazz man, or blues singer. And I don't even, like, every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, how does that voice come out of that person? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I'll say this about the music. Whenever you see a movie where the music and the soundtrack and the score and all the music in the movie
Yeah.
is not to your particular taste, but you walk out of the movie going, I need to listen to more of that, then the movie's done its fucking job. I saw a Complete Unknown, and I walked out of that movie going, yeah, I don't love Dylan, but I really want to go home and like pop on a Dylan album right now.
Yep.
And I felt the same way walking out. Like, I've never in my life, in 43 years, said, you know what I need to do? Spend an entire afternoon listening to blues music.
Right.
But when I got out of Sinners, I went home and I like YouTubed like a 1920s blues compilation. And I just had it on in the background while I was like doing some stuff in the house. That scene, and I want to credit the cinematographer, Autumn Dorald Arkapaw.
Yeah.
Apparently, she's the first woman cinematographer to shoot in IMAX.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
that scene apparently was done in like one take.
Oh my God.
And it was like rehearsed for a month.
Oh, perfect.
And yeah, listen, I don't even know if we should describe this scene because, I mean, we are doing a spoiler-filled review. We're talking about the movie, but it's like, there's no discussion of that scene that can do it justice. The best way I'll describe it is just that he sings a song in the juke joint. Everyone in the joint, it feels like the music possesses them.
Right.
In this like almost, and I'm using this word not in the disgusting sexual way, but almost in like this orgiastic way.
Right.
but then it starts to evoke like the it opens up like fucking time and
Time and space.
space,
Yeah.
and there's like modern rock and modern,
DJs.
all of the people that
Yeah.
evolved from blues music
Yeah.
are there, and then there's a Chinese couple,
Yeah.
and they're dancing in this like orgiastic way. I'm making
Yeah.
words up now, and
That's a
it
word.
evokes like geishas,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, it's one of those moments where you're sitting in a movie theater and you are just like, I can't believe what I'm watching.
Right.
There's two types of ways that could be. It could either be like the I can't believe how fucking bad this is. And then it's the just you're in actual awe of what you're watching. And this is one of those moments
Right.
where I sat there and like my mouth is like hanging a little bit. And by the
Yeah.
end, I'm like,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was as great a scene as I've seen in a movie in a long time. Like especially because I happen to be a fan for as much of the horror fan in me.
Yeah.
I love musicals.
Right.
So this hit me on like every level. It's like it's a musical moment. It's this like crazy moment of possession in a horror movie. It's evoking the vampires outside, and then the vampires outside have like their own like rebuttal song to
Yep.
this, and
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like it's just you watch this movie and yes, it reminds you of From Dusk Till Dawn. Yes, it evokes other vampire movies. It might evoke the memory of some gangster movies, but scenes like this show you that you're watching something that you've never seen before. Yes, it's borrowing inspiration from certain things, but it is wholly unique in the way that it's presenting it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, let's unpack this movie some more. Let's talk about what's so good about it. So my criteria for when I say I love a movie or a movie is like in my top 10 list, and I've said this before too, is that like I have to sort of think about scenes that are coming up in the movie and be really excited to see that scene. Like, oh, okay, this scene's coming. Oh, it's this scene. And my favorite movies can be where like pretty much every scene is like that. Oh, no, it's this scene, right? This movie is like that, and I've seen it once. When I see like pictures from it on the internet or like video on YouTube, I'm like, I want to watch that movie again. And the thing is, that scene that we just talked about is this like amazing sequence that is like so unique that it's like it's hard to kind of think of other movies to compare it to. But there's also other scenes that are like maybe not at that level, but still like very close that are like amazing sequences. Like you mentioned this when we were texting, when the vampires are singing, like the vampires sing multiple times too. This movie is a like folk music / folk horror
Yeah, and they're singing like
blues.
Irish folk songs.
Yeah,
The
Wicker
vampires.
Man, and it's Wicker Man, right? Which is like one of our favorites, right? And just like, oh my god, I mean, there's so much I can say. So like, here's the thing: there's so much about this movie I can unpack and say that I love, and it's interesting too because I kind of want to start talking about the vampire stuff because we haven't done that. But then I'm like, I don't want to just go over all the African American blues amazing stuff too. I think before what we should do is this: let's talk about Michael B. Jordan and his characters. Let's talk about the supporting cast. Then let's do the vampires, and I think we'll kind of cover it all good. So,
Yeah.
so Michael B. Jordan. Funny thing, all right. So I'm in my mom's apartment. She just made me this amazing French toast over here, right? My mom said to me, she's going to get mad at me that I'm revealing this, but she didn't realize that was the same person, Michael B. Jordan. Now I only bring that up because that's just a testament to his performance. Like he's that good that you forget, oh, this is the same guy doing two different roles and Smoke and Stack, and they're so friggin'. He has this like insane charisma that like who from this generation can kind of keep up with him right now?
he is he exudes star power.
Right, exactly.
He you know, like you think about like his role in Black Panther, and everybody and look, I know Chadwick Boseman has passed, and so like everybody like and he was a great actor and Oscar nomination, and he was great as Black Panther. But when Black Panther came out, everybody was like,
Yeah,
fucking Michael B. Jordan, man. Like,
Killmonger, yeah.
and the line that he says at the end, you know, I want to just, you know, I want to go in the water with the bodies of the slaves, and that was like the line and the character that everybody loved, and people were like, why can't all the Marvel villains be as good as him? And you know, when he showed up in Wakanda Forever, like my movie theater audience like screamed.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was like a, oh my god, he's there. And
Right.
like he is a movie star.
Yep.
And it's, you know, very few people. There are great actors, and then there are movie stars. Tom Cruise is a movie star, right? Yes, he's a good actor, but he's going to get casual fans, people who don't go to the movies very often, to go to the movies.
Right.
And I think that we're seeing that with Michael B. Jordan now, where people are going to go out of their way to spend $25 on movie tickets,
right,
$100 night out with the family, or maybe not with the family for Sinners, but with the significant other, or maybe a group of friends,
right,
and they're going to go pay to see this man on screen.
Right.
He's just so fucking good. And the dichotomy of his two characters, I love them both. I love how they go in there, like the opening 30-40 minutes where they go in their separate directions.
Yep.
And Smoke goes to that like town, that little like, you know, hub where he's picking up supplies, and he meets Grace and Bo, and he has the Chinese couple. And then he gets that like 12-year-old girl to watch his car.
Yeah.
And then he like, just like the way he shoots the guys, like, I can't just let you walk away.
Right.
And he just, like, Smoke just exuded like people were afraid of him, but they respected him in a way.
Right.
And then Stax is, you know, the more fun-loving, free, you know, he's dangerous, but he's you know, more willing to have a good time, and he's, you know, teaching Sammy, you know, he's making fun of Sammy, he's teaching him how to do things with women, you know. It's
right.
Like he's like off on like an Infinity Gauntlet mission of like collecting blues musicians. He's like, I have the Delroy Lindo stone, I have the cornbread stone, I have, it's
the cornbread stone.
Well, yeah, the guy Omar Miller, he plays cornbread.
That's right. I forgot
that's one of my favorite fucking scenes in the movie, where he starts talking to him all offensive in front of his wife, and he's like,
yeah.
And then he says how much money he's gonna make, and his wife's like, "You go, cornbread. It's all good."
right.
Yes. But that's my point. I was loving this movie. As big of a horror fan as I am,
yeah,
I'm sitting there going, I fucking love this movie. Yeah. And it's like it felt like for like an hour and a half. Yeah. It's just, we're putting together a juke joint. I need to go around. One brother goes to like build the store, build the place. The other one goes to collect the musicians. And I was having such a good time on that run, because somehow Michael B. Jordan was equally as charismatic as two separate, and literally it was as simple as a blue hat and a red hat, and that's literally all it was. And to your mom's point, I walked out of The Social Network going, wow, those twins were fucking great in that movie. And then somebody told me that that's one actor, Armie Hammer. And I went, no, it's not. Yes. And I was shocked, because I didn't know who Armie Hammer was. And I was shocked when I found out that he played the Winklevoss twins. So it's a testament to how good the filmmaking is, that they're on screen together so much. and it never looks like a special effect
Right.
when they're
Right.
together.
Exactly. And for the catering on the Social Network, Army Hammer actually got to get double the pinky toes, So anyway, no, dude, we could go on about Michael B. Jordan for the next 20 minutes easily. But here's the thing. This movie is jam-packed with actors that are extremely talented. And I just have forgotten pretty much everyone's name at this point. It's pretty early on a Sunday morning. What is the name of the woman that was in his house? She was in Loki. She was in Lovecraft Country. She's in this. Who's that?
Yeah, she's the one person I didn't.
Wumi.
Wunmi Makawu.
Yeah.
She is. I was so happy to see her.
Yeah.
Because I loved. We reviewed Lovecraft Country on this channel, and she was the centerpiece of that show, her and her sister.
Right.
But also His House was one of our favorite horror movies. I think that was like a pandemic horror movie. It came out on Netflix.
That was our first year doing this channel, and I think that was my number one movie.
I think that might have either been my number one or number two.
Yeah.
If it was our first year on the channel, I think it might have been that and Invisible Man. But yeah, she is stunningly beautiful. And I love, again, this is the dichotomy. You have Haley Steinfeld and you have her, and they're the most different looking human beings on earth, but they're both unbelievably beautiful. And Smoke has that incredible scene with her in that little apothecary that she has.
Yep.
Where, like, man, that was like the scene in the movie where I was like, shit, I don't know if I want to sit here with Charlotte watching this movie. This is a little too hot.
Wait a minute. Did you watch this with your daughter?
No, not yet. I do want her to see it though, because it's so fucking good.
Right,
and she's seen worse.
Right.
But like that scene went on a little too long. I was like,
yeah.
But like it was like, I'm not like being perverted when I say like that was just a fucking hot scene,
Yes.
And but like also there's history there, there's trauma there, like that like motivates Smoke. And on the other side of the coin, you have Haley Steinfeld's character, who, my God in heaven, I mean, yeah, she's just phenomenal in this movie. But as good of an actress as she is great at playing like the sex appeal character in this movie. She really is, and towards the end, she's even better. But then, like you mentioned, like this movie's just for every supporting character.
Yeah.
Gets just enough screen time where you understand everything about them and you love them. Like you have Bo and Grace, who are the Chinese couple, who you meet for like a couple of minutes and you just love them automatically. It's like, and I forgot her name. I think it's Lee Jun Lee. Is the actress there, and then you have Delroy Lindo, who's probably going to get an Oscar nomination for playing Delta Slim. He's got some of these just great lines of dialogue throughout the movie.
Right.
He's kind of like he's the old man who's like he's almost playing the Murtaugh, like I'm too old for this shit character. Right. But at the same time, he's like this great blues musician. He's like the old veteran who's basically you could pay him off with alcohol to come to the juke joint. But for me, and again, I come back to this, the star of this movie, other than Michael B. Jordan, and the person that I want up there on the Oscar stage is Miles Caton. This kid just blew me away. Like, every time he opened his mouth, I didn't understand how he has that voice. And he's so good in this movie as this like young, kind of like wet behind the ears. He's like looking up to these two gangster characters to like, he has a preacher father and he wants these, but like he wants to kind of like go off with these two badass brothers and
Right.
go to the juke joint where he'll have a chance to like hang out with Perline and learn, practice what he was taught. And it's like a coming of age story,
Right.
a music story, a story of faith, and then oh yeah, by the way, there's vampires. And that first hour and 20 minutes, Chris, I watched Chris's 60-second review on his channel,
Sure.
Future Boy Chris, and he said that he loved the movie, but he felt that the second half of the movie wasn't as great as the first part. And I almost agree with that. I love the second half of the movie, and I love everything that happens in that last hour.
Right.
But I genuinely loved everything so much in the first hour that if it never became a vampire movie, I think I would have loved this just as much.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I don't know. I mean, okay, so this movie, there's a couple of things. Let's unpack what you just said there, right? So, you mentioned that this movie's kind of hot, and that's what you were saying in your words, right? It's fine. My mom saw this movie; she's sitting right over there too. But what I was gonna say is that like there's three main characters, essentially the two twins, and then there's the preacher boy, right? Now, there's a sex scene for each of those three guys, and then here's the thing: like each of the women that they're with are like compelling, interesting characters that you care about their fates, like. Yeah. So you got 6 characters already that you're like locked into. Then you have Delroy Lindo. Then you have Cornbread. I mean, this cast, you care about the main characters that they focus on. Now the movie itself, the genres, it's kind of crazy because it's like 30 Days a Night with like vampires surrounding a place. Then there's also the fact that it's like a musical. It's like a folk blues vampire musical. It's just like it's so different than like everything else that's in the theater right now. And they actually had the money to make it, exciting to look at too. It's just this beautiful looking movie. And I mean, here's the thing, going in that, okay, once you realize, okay, they're vampires, then you know that these people are going to get killed off. There's people that are going to be turned into vampires. Oh, look, in the trailer, they show Haley Steinfeld as a vampire. They show Michael B. Jordan as a vampire.
That's one thing that I wish the trailer didn't show. That's one thing, because when you meet her character at the beginning, my thought was, well, I've seen the trailer. I know she's a vampire. And I almost thought like, oh, is she a vampire already? And then I was like, oh, okay. So I wish the trailer didn't show Haley Steinfeld.
Right.
Because that kind of ruined that character for me. Not in the sense that like I just knew that at some point she's going to become a vampire.
Right.
And like I couldn't get as emotionally invested in like her as I could with the other female characters who I'm all thinking, okay, maybe one of them or two of them will survive, especially when we got down to like the nitty-gritty at the ending.
Yeah, exactly. And you are caring, you want these characters to make it through the night, and then you're like, oh, well, based on what I've seen in the trailers, it's kind of funny too, because in the trailers, I remember they have that scene where Michael B. Jordan's walking at the camera with the Tommy gun, and I kept thinking like, okay, where's that moment here? What's that? And then it doesn't happen until the very, very end, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to happen. But I think like a good movie, regardless of what you can kind of fantasy book in your head and predict what's going to happen, if they can throw you enough curveballs where you can't predict, or if they do what you're expecting them to do, but it's in such an exciting way, then who cares, right? Like the Haley Steinfeld scene where she is turned. That's a great example of, okay, she's going out there now. She's going to get turned into a vampire. I know this is going to happen. I've seen 100 movies like this, right? The way they filmed that scene, the way that the dialogue and stuff, like, I don't know about you, Danny, but sometimes I'll watch a movie, characters are talking, I'm like, okay, he's going to say that next because this person said this, right? Because we've seen so many fucking movies, we can kind of tell what they're going to say. And I get so excited when they say something you're not anticipating. You're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I wasn't going to say that. He goes into this whole thing about her having pain and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is intriguing. It's not just like a jump scare in their honor, right? It's like everything, every interaction, whether it's a sexual interaction, a horror interaction, any kind of interaction between people, there is a purpose behind it. There's an emotional purpose behind every single thing in this movie. So that scene with Haley Steinfeld when she gets turned could have easily just been like, oh, let's get to a jump scare and show how scary or intense this is going to be. But no, they drag it out. There's this long, prolonged conversation. They start kind of talking about class and the Ku Klux Klan and all this kind of stuff in this interaction. Then when she's going back in and the tension's building, oh, she's going to get turned now. It's not like, he's biting into her throat and it's like real gratuitous and there's gore flying all over the place. All you see is her walking towards the camera and then the vampire floating up into the air, and it is so fucking chilling, and it's way more effective.
Yeah. And I think that again, we said we mentioned earlier, we haven't really talked about the vampires. They're so unique. And what I love about the concept of these vampires is like they have this like almost group think, and this like almost where like the becoming a vampire cleanses you or purifies you.
Mm-hmm.
And they make the point of like, oh yeah, we were in the Klan, but now we don't care about that. Now we're outside dancing with black vampires because we love them. They're one of us. And it makes a good argument for like, oh, like maybe vampires can solve racism, or like, like maybe the vampires aren't the worst force. I mean, obviously they're, fucking vampires and they're, they take away all of your humanity. But Jack O'Connell as the leader of the vampires is his own supporting character. He has a great introduction where he like runs into this house and he's begging them to help him. And you see that the house are Klan members. And he's chased by these Native Americans who are like, send him out to us so we can kill him. You don't know what he is. And I saw people online being like, I need a Sinners prequel about vampires versus the Choctaw Indians. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Let's fucking go.
Right. But here's the thing. In a lesser movie, the good guys would be overwhelmed. The bad guys would be about to get them. And then the Native American guys would come in and rescue them. Right? That's in a lesser movie. And like the vampire stuff, like once again, there's that sequence where the main characters look out into the field and you see all the people that the vampires turned and they're like dancing around like it's the Wicker Man and stuff like that. And their eyes are all glowing. See, it's so funny because there's so much stuff that you and I talk about on this channel. Like the eyes like that, that's a very Flanagan thing where it's just like their eyes are completely red and glowing. It's just like a little piece of their eye or like you're in the center. Like that's such a Flanagan thing. That's such a Midnight Mass thing, Yeah. And I love the idea, like you mentioned it before, like a group think or like a hive mind kind of thing, where that was where some of the people I've seen this movie with had confusion. They were like, oh, all of a sudden, like being a vampire makes you an awesome musician. It's like, no, it's not like that. It's that like because they're connected now, they have the same musical ability that he has.
Yeah, because Remick knows what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah. That scene where they introduce themselves and then Haley Steinfeld goes out to talk to them and they're playing the instruments and it's so interesting to see, and again, we keep saying in a lesser movie, how many times just recently have we seen the vampire, like the Nosferatu type, right? Nosferatu has to get into his coffin to sail across the water. The Last Voyage of the Demeter came out last year, or I believe, and it was all about, the vampire's trip across the ocean in the casket with the rats. So here we just meet this one vampire who looks like he's like burnt and being chased by Native Americans, and he runs into this house. You get no backstory, you get no flashback. You're just, if Ryan Coogler is saying to you he's a vampire, they know he's a vampire, they want to kill him, but this couple, they're gonna bring him in, they're gonna get bit, and then we're gonna start act 2 is gonna begin. And it almost feels like this jarring scene in the middle of the movie where like you cut away from all these characters that we've been talking about that we love and all the interactions. And it again, it just feels like the trust that the director has in the audience to say, okay, now we're going to introduce some fucking vampires into this shit. And right. They're going to be scary as fuck. And they're going to, you know, play some cool Irish folk songs and, and, you know, lead a big, you know, dance circle out in the fields, and it'll be great.
Yeah. I mean, like it's, oh god, like I don't even know where to unpack this movie. Like a few other questions that people have had, right? They're like, why is the movie called Sinners, right? I'm like, okay, well, here's like the thesis of this movie, like in my eyes at least, is that like this movie shows that there are ways to make money that at the time seem illegal or like they're not right. Like I think a juke joint is like illegal, or the idea of like African Americans congregating like that in this space could have been like illegal or dangerous at that time. Right.
Well, I mean, first of all, if it's 1932, then drinking is illegal because prohibition exists. I always joke around because I work at FDR High School, and I always make the joke that the best thing FDR ever did as president was overturn prohibition.
Right.
So we're in the prohibition bootlegging era. So any alcohol that is seen being consumed is illegal. In most parts of the South, they still had Jim Crow laws that prohibited large groups of African Americans from congregating, probably other than church on Sunday. And you know, those were like black code laws from like right after the Civil War. And you know, like this is the era of the Klan. It's the era of lynchings. It's so like so much of what you see in the movie is especially like the idea of like wealthy black people who are, you know, opening up a business. This was 1932, so 11 years earlier was the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riots. Now I feel like I'm teaching a U.S. history class, but like this is the time period that they're living in. It's you know, slavery is over, but in the South, that's more of an in theory than a reality. And you see that just in the fact that like it's 1932 and there are black people in the South that are still out picking cotton in the field. They're sharecropping. That's their way of making money. Right. And like a lot of people think that, that went out of style after the Civil War. And this is, you know, 50 to 60 years later, and it's still going on.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I took it was that the way that black people or just people in general could survive is like by doing these things that could be considered illegal at that point, right? Like smoke and stack, leave. They join the military at one point. They come back. They get into organized crime. That's how they could be as rich and powerful as they are when they come back to their hometown, right? And you know, the preacher boy, like he's able to, like his passion, what's going to bring him happiness and joy in life is not necessarily having this family and being a part of this whole system of like picking cotton and stuff like that, but he wants to go play the blues. Like that's where his soul is and stuff, you know. And the movie is bookended by the scene where he's in the church all bloodied after this vampire massacre, and the dad is basically like giving him this choice: do you renounce sin, like get rid of the blues guitar and you know, find God? And you don't know which way he's going to go at the beginning of the movie, but then at the end of the movie, he shows that he chose the blues instead of the embrace of his family, which I'm sure he needed in that moment after this giant massacre. But I feel like going back to Mike Bongiorno's question of like, well, why are there twins, right? I think it's because like they show two paths, right? Like one thing that I think that people haven't noticed as much, and maybe you did notice, Danny, but when the vampires first show up at the juke joint, they start playing their music, and it seems like every single person, because there's multiple characters standing in the doorway watching them, it seems like everyone is sort of almost hypnotized by them, except for Smoke. And Smoke is like, no, fuck that. You get out of here. Like, we don't want you guys, right? And I think that Smoke represents sort of the like serious, no bullshit, and we're not gonna compromise or sell our souls, right? And then Stack is like the kind of fun, more easily persuaded guy, and like their fates totally represent like what happens with those two mindsets.
Yeah, like, well, and even in the scenes where like Stack wants to have a great time, he wants to open up a juke joint, yes, so they can make money, but more that it's like a place for black people to party, and he's having a good time. He's down there dancing. He's telling them, okay, you can accept these like, wooden coins that that were, used during that period in the South. And Smoke is constantly like, this is a business. Like we can't be accepting that shit. We need to like make the money. Like we put a lot of money into this thing. And I love the dichotomy between them, because it is the idea of that they're on these two paths. And I think they established that right at the beginning, where literally Smoke goes to the town to meet the Chinese couple so that he can literally build the business. And Stack is like, I'll go collect the entertainment. And they end up, going to see Delroy Lindo, going to see picking up cornbread so that he could be the bouncer, picking or getting the people who are going to end up being the bartenders and everything. And it just, they converge together. And I mean, we're almost an hour in, and the spoiler alert of this movie is that Stack, he has a little too much fun, and it leads to him being killed and turned into a vampire, whereas Smoke does not allow himself to ever get that to that level, and he becomes like the leader of the resistance at the end, fighting against his brother, which leads to what now that we are, let's see if I can do this math, 2008 to 2025, 17 years into the MCU. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
What I think is probably the greatest post-credit scene I've ever seen.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wait, so is there a mid-credits and a post-credit scene?
I only stayed through the mid-credit scene.
Yeah. You talking about the scene where they're like in the jazz club?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that too. I heard there was even a post-credit scene too, but I stayed until yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you did? Did you stay to the very end?
I did not. No.
Okay, so I guess when I go see this again, I'm gonna have to sit through the credits. But that mid-credit scene is so fucking good. I loved it so much. I love that they show you like this little glimpse of something that we didn't get to see. Man, I could talk about this movie forever, but we're 55 minutes in, so I don't know how much more you want to keep going.
No. It's funny, yeah, because there's a lot I would say about this movie too, but yeah, I always like to keep it under an hour. If you guys like this video, make sure that you subscribe and join our show. Danny puts up reviews constantly. I mean, we covered Horror Noir, which was this documentary on Shudder. And it's kind of funny. I went to go see this in Alamo Drafthouse as well. And they showed scenes from African-American horror films. And it's like, I bet you most of the people in the audience, in this suburban Texas audience, probably don't recognize a lot of these movies, but like I do because of this channel, Danny. You know, like doing Shutter stuff that it, you know, focuses on African Americans, just like, and we covered a bunch of movies from horror noir in that. This movie, it does not need to be just like, oh, this is an African American horror movie, but this will be one of the greats of that particular genre.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great movie in general. It's a great horror movie in general. It's a great African American movie, great African American horror movie. You know, like Candyman and Tales from the Hood, and you know all that. You know, and it goes up with the Jordan Peele stuff, which has been such a big part of this decade, this time period. You know.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to ever diminish the fact that like Ryan Coogler as an African American is writer director is hitting peaks that very few times, and that should be celebrated. But I think what is special about this movie and Michael B. Jordan as an actor and a collaborator is that they're not making they have this they are making black movies for mainstream audiences.
Yep.
Like Black Panther is I mean, my God, it's a movie about Africa. It's a movie about, you know, African culture, and you have this African superhero and you know everything tied in obviously with the MCU. But it was a mainstream. It was a movie that anybody could walk in off the street, and this movie is appealing to a wide audience. Like it's made hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide already. I think next week is going to be a huge week for Sinners because it is going to be back in like all the major cities. It's going to be back in IMAX in at least one IMAX theater. I think New York's is the Lincoln Center one, which is a big pain in the ass for me after work, but I'm going to try to get there one day next week because my God, I want to see this movie in IMAX.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a movie we're going to get to talk about later this year multiple times when we do our top 10 of 2025, when we do our maybe our Oscar preview and like Oscar talking about the Oscars of 2026. Yeah, I think this movie is going to be there. I think Michael B. Jordan and Coogler are almost guarantees. I think Delroy Lindo and Miles Caton could get Best Supporting Actor nominations. I wouldn't be shocked if the women in this movie get Best Supporting Actress nominations. I think Autumn Durald Arkapaw is going to get a Best Cinematography nomination. And then there's all the music, the Best Original Song, Best Score, all of that stuff. I think Miles Caton's getting an Oscar, if not for Best Supporting Actor, for Best Original Song.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah.
And I just think this is a movie that if you missed it, it's going to make a lot of money on streaming when it goes on VOD. This is a movie. This is an event movie, and I really, you know, I get that the multiplex experience sucks nowadays, but if you have a chance to go see this in the theater, it deserves to be seen on a very big screen, and I can't wait to see it again.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. And you forgot one other list that this is probably going to be on for us, which is top 5 favorite movies where someone spits into another person's mouth.
Oh, definitely.
But with that,
it's definitely in my top 2.
Oh, there you go. Nice. So we are just a minute and change under an hour. Thank you all for joining us. We got more coming up on the Lasser Cast, but we'll see you guys real soon.